Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show, episode 137. Here with my co-hosts Umana and Chelsea Hopkins. We saw a lot of basketball here in the last week, and we're going to talk a lot about the players we saw. And how's everybody doing? Ani, how are you doing, man?
Man, good. I took a little bit of a breather. After doing a lot of traveling, did a little bit more traveling, but feeling good. Ready to get back at it. How about you?
I'm doing good. Was watching the Las Vegas big time, obviously a little bit of that in the live period the last few days after coming from Adidas Open in Los Angeles, and then watch the dead period, which actually had some good ball at the Las Vegas big time as well. That event had some TV games on Tuesday that we'll talk about. Obviously 4 games that were pretty good, a lot of high level players. Chelsea was able to go evaluate, and I know she had some games as well, coaching her team, and she saw some other things, and she has a lot of WNBA updates. So we have a lot to talk about. Chelsea, how are you doing?
Doing good, Ronnie. Like you said, wrapped up the live period with my girls, Team Tarasi 17U. So been on the phone a little bit with some coaches, so I'm hearing some positive feedback, hoping that some of my girls get some scholarships. Sure. Obviously, I met you at Gorman, too, to check out the 16 and under, 17 and under games. So it was a good week of basketball. What can I say?
Yeah, it was a good week, and so great week for a lot of good players. Hopefully they get more scholarships now that the grassroots live period is over. I'm sure their phones are ringing. They're going to get more offers. We're going to talk about that. And obviously, I think the theme is the kids that play together, stick together, play well together. That seems to help them. Whereas, obviously TV basketball made for TV kind of takes on a different feel. It's talking about high-level players, but sometimes high-level players put together doesn't always make the best team. And we're going to talk to, hopefully a little later on the show, episode 137, from Indiana Elite, Travis Perry from Kentucky. Hopefully he gets on the show and join us. Their team won the 3SSB Open, Indiana Elite. They're a really good team on the 16 under. I mean, they would have been really good on any of those TV games, and they were good. All July. They really didn't lose. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But let's talk about probe the paint a little bit about some bigger picture items, just about the NBA trades and potentially great players moving. Chelsea, the Celtics went far in the playoffs. Honestly, they have 2 great players on the wing, but it looks like, if they can get Kevin Durant, they're going to try to get him, even if it costs them Jaylen Brown and obviously probably some other assets. What do you make of that? And then, Jaylen Brown is like, for reals, like shaking his head on Twitter, like, come on, SMH. But, I mean, that's just part of a business. So what's your take there?
Well, I mean, I always say, like, everybody is expendable for the right player. So, I mean, you look at Kevin Durant, top, maybe 3 guy, you can argue 1, 2, whatever. In the NBA, he's available. He's looking to leave. He's certainly a piece that everybody's going to look into. So, sure. I think Rudy Gobert kind of skewed the market a little bit, when his trade went down and, they acquired a whole bunch of first round picks, for him. So now Kevin Durant's bar is going to be way higher. Everybody values Kevin Durant more than they value, obviously, Rudy Gobert. So I think, the Celtics are going to obviously, if you want to be in the mix and try to win a championship, they came up a little bit short this year. You have to take a look at it. They have the assets. They have the pieces to make a trade without having to get rid of, their young superstar in Jason Tatum. And, I can see Kevin Durant being a good fit. I honestly think that he's a good fit pretty much anywhere just because of the type of player that he is. I feel sad for Jaylen Brown because, he's a rising young star in his own right. But sometimes you have to make certain moves that, can guarantee that you're going to pretty much kind of repeat what you did last year. I can't see the Celtics doing less, adding a piece like that. Sure. So I am usually a fan of, kind of hanging on to your young core if you're trying to build something. But also you have teams, the Lakers, Boston, teams that, have to win now. That's what their reputation kind of, exceeds them. They're not in a position where they get to build forever and have these, have these opportunities where they're not fighting for a championship. So I feel like you have to take a look at it. So I think that it would be a good trade if they can hold on to Jason Tatum and acquire Kevin Durant. They have a lot of first round picks. It's just something that they have to do. Now, the Nets have been demanding, these asinine lists of, what they want. So if it gets to be too crazy, then you say no. But if I'm just giving up Jaylen Brown and a couple of picks, I feel like that still puts me right back in championship contention, at least Eastern Conference Finals. And I personally would do it.
Yeah, no, I think it's something you definitely look at. I know Marcus Smart, Brooklyn came back and won a Marcus Smart with Jaylen Brown as well. And I still think it's something to look at. I mean, you still have Brogdon, you still have Robert Williams, you still have Al Horford with Jason Tatum and KD. There's a team that can contend for an NBA championship. Obviously, people want to look at assets like down the road. But if you're Boston, it seems like they're in a window of like 1 to 3 years of winning a championship. So even though KD's 34 and people talk about his age, at the end of the day, like that's a 2-3 year window of winning a championship, which is really what Boston's on. Right? Either you're banking on Jaylen Brown kind of ascending to another level of a player. I think he's more your secondary, tertiary guy in the championship team. But you got KD, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams, Brogdon, and Al Horford. I think you got enough pieces. I know Peyton Pritchard had a bad NBA Finals, but he's still a quality player off the quality piece. Yeah. I think you kind of you go for that. I don't think Marcus Smart should be the reason you don't go for it. I think the biggest thing would be seeing how KD's health is and seeing if he can his body, take at least playing 60, 65 games in the regular season and how his body will be, playing, 7-game series for 4 rounds. And, that's the stuff if you're Boston, you want to take a look at more so than if Marcus Smart is a deal breaker. You know what I mean? So I'm in agreement. I think it'll be a move to put Boston in contention for a title in their window. And, if KD's healthy enough, I think you go for it.
Well, let me ask you something real quick, Ani. So do you think that if the trade doesn't go down, the pieces that they did acquire in Brogdon, this offseason, is that enough? Like maybe that's kind of why they're like, but we made investments.
I think it's enough. I think it's enough, especially if you have a healthy Malcolm Brogdon. Like when Malcolm Brogdon's healthy, I think he's the type of guard that they needed. They had no pure guard, point guard. I was kind of big on them getting like a Tyus Jones or something, right? Malcolm Brogdon's a good piece. And if he's healthy, then he's the piece that they'll need to, contend. But it's all going to be on Malcolm's health. I mean, he doesn't play much. He hasn't played much, each season. But he's the type of player that can put him over the top. But they're going to have to be wary of like the Bucks coming back, fully healthy, and so it's going to be another team that contends. It's going to come out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, Malcolm's enough if healthy.
Yeah, definitely. What did you guys see? Any other transaction or move that caught your eye or signing? Obviously that's the big one that people are talking about a trade. But did anything else surprise you guys? 2-way deals, rookie contracts, second round picks, signing. One that I saw. Sorry to cut you off, Chelsea. Sharife Cooper getting cut from the Hawks already.
As you should.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't see that. When did that happen?
This past week, right?
Yeah. We're talking about a guy that was a 2-time All-American, National High School Player of the Year. Didn't really get the college season he wanted. Obviously had a big reputation. Was a dominant player on the circuit, dominant player in high school. So Chelsea, what's your first reaction? Then Ani will get your reaction to that. I know you didn't see that, Chelsea, but I thought you saw him a little bit at the summer league.
Well, I think that the kind of writing is on the wall when the Hawks acquired DeJounte Murray. I mean, I think that's a huge piece for them. It's going to allow Trae Young to play off the ball a little bit, to have a long, athletic guard. Trae Young kind of, I don't want to say he gets punished, but, defensively, he's kind of a liability. So to be able to have somebody who's going to be able to match up with, the bigger, maybe more premier point guards, that we kind of see Trae struggle with. Like offensively, he struggles against nobody, but, defensively, he is smaller. So I think DeJounte Murray just, taking a little bit of pressure off of him, allowing him to play off the ball and score is something that the Hawks are going to benefit from. And obviously, when you acquire somebody like him, there's really just no need for Sharife. And you really can't have 2 like midget guards out there. I think Sharife is a very talented player, and I think he deserves a spot in this league somewhere. I see him more as a backup, but I do think that he would be a good piece, on many teams. So, I wish him the best of luck. I don't know who's the rumblings of who's looking to sign him and pick him up, but I think kind of when DeJounte got, traded to the Hawks, that it was kind of written that he wouldn't be there anymore.
I just think he had a bad summer league. I mean, he can't shoot. 4 points, 4 assists, and 3 turnovers. I mean, he's more of a true point guard that's averaging close to the same amount of turnovers than assists. And me and Ronnie watched him. I mean, the dude don't even look to score. He'll come off a ball screen, doesn't even get into a floater game, a mid-range, nothing. I mean, guys rondo him, and like you say, he's a midget guard. Like, he's a small guard. He's not good enough. Guys like him, even though stylistically he's different than like a Trayvon Duval that are ranked high early, but if you cannot shoot or Dennis Smiths of the world, like guys like that just cannot shoot, don't look to score. I thought Dennis probably hunted more, just an inefficient guy, but Sharife just can't, he's not an NBA player right now. I think he's a G League guy that, if he develops a jumper and he can look to kind of score and cut down the turnovers, I think he turns the ball over so much because he looks to pass so much because he can't shoot.
Correct. The defense honest.
He's looking to thread the needle for sure.
Right.
If he throw a great pass and it's not there.
If he can become a better scorer, then I think he'll be a NBA player. But right now, he's a G League guy. I
saw a couple of G League games where he did all right though.
That's the right level. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. And I did not see him in the tournament.
Ronnie's going hard on it.
Ronnie's tough crowd, man.
Yeah. Ronnie's going straight to it because we're talking about a guy. Again, some publications named him National Player of the Year. He wasn't our National Player of the Year. He never got voted. He was a first-team All-American though twice. And I don't think his senior year was even as good as his junior year when they had more talent around. So you can see, and then I think not really getting the full picture of what he could do at Auburn, right? Because of there was kind of some questions still before, obviously, but this was before NIL was valid. It's like, is he an amateur? Is he not amateur? He missed almost the whole year. So we got glimpses. So I don't really think GMs or NBA guys really could see what he do. And then, like, what I saw Ani, regardless of what his game was he just didn't look confident. He didn't. At 6 foot, 6'1", that's what I got out of the NBA summer. I think we might have said it on our last pod, is like the lack of really good guards under 6'3". Like, you got to be incredible. Like,
and he's not 6'1", Ronnie. I've seen this. I've been close to him. I'm almost 5'8", so he's not 6'1".
That's another thing. See, you know how high school heights are. You list guys at 6'2", and there's 5'11". You list guys at 6'8", and they're 6'6". It makes a difference at some point. You know what I mean? It literally and figuratively catches up with you.
And Ani's point, like, if you're a midget guard, you just have to be so good, like, to even have a chance. Look at Isaiah Thomas. Like, he was in MVP talks. Like, he is scoring the ball at a incredibly high rate. Like, you have to just be like so exceptional. So it's hard. Like, it's really hard.
And that's one thing I got from the summer league. There was no exceptional small guards.
Okay.
So it makes you appreciate Chris Paul, Mark Price, Terrell Brandon. Again, we can go down the list. Those guys even more. I mean, they're, like you said, incredible. So speaking of guards, Chelsea, in the WNBA, what is considered a smaller guard? Or what is there those same type of definitions that the NBA has? Or the girls are obviously in a smaller range of heights, maybe except for Liz Cambage. All the girls are in a smaller range of heights. What's the range of a smaller guard, or somebody would consider, a small guard?
I would say small guard WNBA, like, if you're looking at a point guard, would be like anywhere from like 5'5", 5'6". You see that with Crystal Dangerfield. A lot of the really short guards, Crystal Dangerfield, guard for New York, by the way. But a lot of the really, really small guards, like, it's hard for them to even find a place in the league. Like, I can't even list off, a lot of names for you. Most of the guards at point guard are around my height, 5'7", 5'8". That's pretty much average that you see at that position. Some of them are a little taller, a little bigger. When you talk about like Chelsea Gray, but she's a little bit of an outlier at her position. I would say for the most part, point guard, 5'7", 5'8", and on the wing, you have to be long, you have to be athletic, and most of those girls are 5'11" and up.
Sure.
And that's pretty much typical for a WNBA player.
Got you. Yeah, Chelsea Gray is a big strong girl, big
outlier
guard.
for sure.
Talk a little bit about the size. We're talking about Liz Cambage. You know, what's going on in the WNBA? You know, me and Anya are following a little bit, and it's like we had a former MVP and Tina Charles kind of divorce her team, and now we have another player who's to that level. It's like they're not on the team. Why are they not on the team? You know, explain to us a little bit more of the dynamics and just what's going on there.
No, for sure. So news just broke, I think yesterday, that Liz Cambage, decided to split from the Sparks. I actually was at her last game. They played the Aces this past week here in Las Vegas. And, I'm sure Liz, has good intentions in some of the stuff that she does. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not on these teams with her, but it seems that turmoil just follows this girl. Super talented. Well, was like, I think the basketball has gotten away from her personally. 5 years ago, we considered Liz a top 1, 2, 3 player in the WNBA. She became a free agent with Dallas Wings, and everybody in the league wanted her. That's how she ended up on the Las Vegas Aces for 2 seasons before she ended ultimately going to the Sparks this year. So I think she's gotten a little bit away from the basketball because there's been a lot of off the court, kind of issues that have followed her. She had the whole issue with, she played for the Australian national team and, got into it with the girls from Nigeria, and there was a fight, and there was, a lot of, kind of bad press just kind of follows Liz. And so, I wish that, she would be able to kind of lock in and focus on the basketball because she's super talented when she's locked in. But we have not seen that from the last couple of years with her because there's always been some type of issue. She was disgruntled with the Aces because she wasn't getting the ball and this was happening and that was happening. And now we're kind of seeing the same thing with the Sparks. Like, I watched the game. She spent most of her time complaining, upset at officials, upset at her teammates, too much into the crowd. Because, obviously the Aces crowd is going to give her hell. She just came from being a Las Vegas Aces. So anytime she's getting the ball, they're booing. And, Liz is, trying to go back and forth with the crowd as opposed to just playing. And so that's the biggest thing that I see. Like, she has definitely gotten away from the basketball. And now she's talking about basically getting away from basketball, saying that she wants to pursue a different career path and kind of go her separate ways. So I think it's unfortunate when you look at what she was from a talent standpoint. But I think, she needs to look in the mirror a little bit about why all of these things are happening to her. Like, we can say that, maybe it's not her fault, but I'm here to say maybe it is, because every scenario and every situation, it's not something positive and she's involved in it. So.
Gotcha. And in the bigger picture, is that just her individually, or is it like, do you think it's an unfair take to say, hey, WNBA is trying to grow, they don't need these problems, but every league has growing pains, especially a young league that I consider still young, like the WNBA, trying to turn the corner and make a lot of profit? Or is that an unfair thing to say because obviously the guys have a lot of problems too? What do you take in the bigger picture?
Yeah, I think, there's going to be issues in any league. We see NBA players disgruntled all the time and demanding trades. I mean, KD's demanding a trade. Not that Liz is demanding a trade, but, we see in any scenario that players have the ability to, express frustrations and want out of situations and, different things happening. So I don't think that that's super a reflection of the league. I think that's just how it works. And like I said, I think Liz, has... there's been some stuff that's happened to her, but I think that she's created a lot of it too. So, at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself as a player. And I think we see that, kind of happening with NBA players as well. Like, look at Russell Westbrook, super talented. He still believes he's at the level that, we've seen him be, MVP of this league. But, the GMs and his longtime agent, they're butting heads because they, disagree about, where he stands or what he should do and what team he should be on. And so these type of scenarios and situations happen all the time. Like, I think it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's a reflection of the league at all. It's usually just the person and why a certain environment or situation isn't working for them.
Yeah, and even looking at Liz's, like, even when she got drafted, and then she went overseas for a couple of years and then requested a trade from the Wings, like, immediately. Like Chelsea said, I mean, this seems like it's been her thing, a Liz thing more so than a WNBA thing for us ever since we even played professionally. So you hate to see it, you know what I mean? Like the thing like Chelsea said a while back, you don't like the WNBA to get recognition about some stuff or get like media attention through stuff like this. Like you only talk about WNBA negative attention, like Liz and then Diana Taurasi and Skylar Diggins, like stuff like that. Like I don't know. It's just one of those things. You know what I mean? Like Liz just needs to figure her stuff out. You know what I mean?
Right. Because I want to talk about the ball because that's one of the selling points of the W is, or when I hear is like they play great ball so great. They play the ball the way a lot of young kids should play ball, that type of thing. So let's talk about that,
Right.
Yeah.
That a little bit more. And, obviously you got to talk about trades. You got to talk about disgruntledness. You got to talk about people getting, moving on or affecting a team that's trying to win a championship. So, that's a good insight. One more thing we wanted to ask you about that, Chelsea, because you played in the WNBA for multiple teams, is like we have an idea of what an NBA team goes through. Max salary guy, players run for him. You got role players, and you got guys at the end of the bench making $800,000 and a couple $1 million, depending if they're young guys or veterans. We have an idea of the roster spots or there's a lot. There's two-way players, guys getting called up now. Give us a little insight of what a WNBA locker room is like. What is it kind of broken down by? Was it be the max player making $200K, and then the other girls kind of following in line? Is there little clicks based on salary, or based more on veterans, or based on who they know? Give us a little insight of that, people, so they know what goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that like with any team situation, you're going to have cliques and just kind of people that band together.
Sure.
From my personal experience, I would say it is absolutely non-related to salary and what people make. It's very common knowledge who's making what, who's a max player. When I was in the WNBA locker room, I was just happy to be there. So, it didn't really matter like, who was making what. But, I think you tend to see rookies, kind of banding together because you're going through similar experiences, fresh out of college, trying to, figure stuff out. You obviously have your premier like superstar players, and a lot of them, are grown women that have families and stuff that's going on kind of outside of basketball. Like when you talk about, most of the max players and players on different teams, Candace, she's married. She just had a baby. Brianna Stewart just had a baby. Like, so these women have private lives, not saying that they don't have relationships with their teammates, but I'm just saying like, those women are tending to a lot of other stuff that happens, outside the court. Then you see just the players that have played together on different journeys in different places. Like, a lot of these girls have been in the WNBA together, been overseas together. So I think you just draw a connection with people that you're familiar with. The basketball community in general is just very small. Like, you've crossed paths with somebody at some point in time. And, I think naturally you're going to, kind of shy towards people that you're familiar with or that you're comfortable with. So definitely groups that, are going to stick together for whatever reason. They played on this team. They played USA together. They played in Turkey together. But definitely not salary related at all. I think collectively all the women of the WNBA can say that we're here to make more money, at every level, from rookies to max players. Like that's just a common goal. The only thing I could think of that probably would be salary related is when you see, these free agents that are, making moves and transactions to other teams. And you might say like, dang, she got that. Oh, if she got that, well, then I should get that, and that's just natural. Like, you play in the league, you feel like you're better than somebody. This girl signed for 170K. Well, dang, I'm worth 175 then. So that's when you see like, the comparisons and where people feel like, they should be worth whatever because of, a specific signing. But other than that, like it's just like any team environment. You have people that are going to stick together and kind of do their own thing. But I will say, like on a positive note, just because you talked a little bit about just getting back to the basketball, we did have some positive stuff happen in the WNBA this week. Last night, the Aces won the Commissioner Cup against Chicago. So the Commissioner Cup is an in-season tournament that the league has put together for a cash prize. And it's basically where they take like these regular season games, and there's a point system just about how you or can accumulate points to basically play in this championship for a cash prize, in which you can earn up to $30,000 based on your WNBA tenure. So obviously, if I'm a rookie or I'm on a 10-day contract, no, I'm not going to get all the money. But if you're a roster player for sure, you've been with the team, you're going to get $15,000 just for playing in the game. And then obviously another cash prize for winning. So last night we saw the Aces and the Chicago Sky meet up. They are number 1 and 2 in the league. I believe Chicago's number 1, Aces are number 2. And basically how you get to the Commissioner's Cup is just having a successful season and winning. You know, these accumulation of points, the more you win, the chances are you're going to be in this game. So we see, you know, the NBA now talking about an in-season tournament, you know, kind of following in, you know, maybe WNBA's footsteps and kind of doing the same thing. But the Aces, who got whooped by Chicago last time in Vegas when I was there, they jumped out on them early, had maybe like a 25-point lead like in the first quarter, and we saw Chicago fight back to win that game. It was kind of the same scenario, but, you know, the Aces didn't let up this time. They went to Chicago. They jumped on them early. I'm watching the game. It was like 17-4 at one point. I think they got up to as much as 22 points or something like that. But they ended up winning pretty easily. Kelsey Plum racking up hardware, man. Kelsey Plum, MVP of the game with 24 points.
Wow.
So she's taking home another trophy. And speaking of Kelsey Plum, we talked a little bit on the last pod about just keeping your core together, signing extensions. So literally the day of the last pod, which I wasn't aware of, Kelsey Plum actually signed her extension with the Aces. So we talked about just WNBA landscape. It seems that the Aces are one team that I can kind of pinpoint of trying to keep their core together.
Sure.
Chelsea Gray signed an extension. De'Erica Hamby signed an extension. Jackie Young signed an extension. And finally, Asia is still under contract. And then finally, Kelsey Plum was the missing piece. So we're going to see this group together for a couple of years to come, and we'll see how it works out. I think they have a couple of pieces that they need to add, and we'll see after this season. Maybe they win the championship and they figure out they have the formula and nothing needs to happen. But as of now, they're having a lot of success under Becky Hammon, and that's something positive that definitely happened in the league this week.
That's great. Hopefully, if indeed they do win, or we can get one of them on to talk about what happened this season.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll be following that. So you talked about them jumping out to a big lead and taking control of the game. That kind of what happened as you switch gears, that would happen in these Las Vegas big time TV games. The team that was together kind of jumped out in front. There was some couple good games. It seemed like the 16U games were a little better than the 217U games in terms of competitiveness. And we say like going back and forth and keeping it a good game all throughout. I know, Ani, you were watching those, and Chelsea as well. So let's just talk about them in order and then what they happened. Vegas Elite 16, EYBL took on the Strive for Greatness 16, EYBL. Ani, what did you see? And then Chelsea will get into what you saw.
Okay.
That game I didn't see a whole lot of. That was the game I didn't see. I think I was teaching y'all when y'all were so like y'all would get a better feel. I watched the games later on when I got back to the house. Sure.
So Chelsea, go ahead and tell us what you saw in that.
Okay, so I was courtside for this game. I had to be there because my guy, Sid, who is the coach of Vegas Elite, is also my trainer. So I just kind of wanted to be there to support. So I was front and center for this game. And Vegas Elite came out very strong. I will say that I'm getting to know, the high school circuit more just as I work with you, Ani, work with you, Ronnie, just about kind of grassroots and how high school is going. So I'm not super well versed with the players, just being totally honest. But I am familiar with the Vegas kids, and just being a client, I guess, of Coach Said. I followed their team, pretty well. So, they jumped out early on Strive for Greatness. For the most part, it was a 20-point game. You saw instances where Strive for Greatness would make a run. I believe they cut it to like 6 at one point in time. But for the most part, Vegas Elite came out strong. They were really under control. John Mobley Jr., I believe, was the MVP of the game. He started super hot. He started 4 for 4 from 3, I believe. Just, excellent shooter, very, very crafty guard, probably one of the best players on the team. But, just shout out to Coach Said for just how he has those kids competing. We have a lot of individuals on the team that, are, probably star players in their own right when they're playing for their high schools. But like you talked about, Ronnie, when you're coming together and you have other good players around you, how are you able to make it work then and still, have great success? And that's kind of what I didn't see so much with Strive for Greatness. I don't know all of these kids, but they just didn't look like a well-oiled machine. Kind of look thrown together, very talented. Like, you see players that individually can do some things, but when you're playing up against a team that has a system and everybody knows their role and everything's clicking on, one cylinder, I feel like those are the teams that are going to, have the most success. And that definitely showed in that particular game.
Definitely. Yeah. John Mobley Jr., the 224 guard, was 19 points, but he kind of set the tone early, like you said, Chelsea, with 4 threes, and he had 13 points in the first half. Taj DeGorville from Durango played an all-around good game. He had a couple of those turnovers he'd like back, but he had 11 points, 9 assists, a handful of rebounds, and did a lot of good things. Ryder Saldes, a 224 guard from Bishop Gorman, kind of gave him a spark defensively in the second half. He had 13 points. Trent Perry from Harvard Westlake, he's another 224. Obviously, most of these players are 224 because it's a 16 and under team. Trent Perry's from Harvard Westlake. He started slow and he finished strong. He's a really good player, smart, competitive. He had 9 points, but just his impact is making a good play, an extra pass. And Common Maker, Ani, I know you've heard the name. I know you've seen him a few times, and he's always been around the gym. He's always around. 7'1". You obviously with the 7'1" player, you notice him right away. He's been around town for a few years, and he had 7 blocks, and they were key blocks. Blocks that made a difference. So it was a good overall performance for them. For Strive for Greatness, James Evans had 10 points. Jaden Alexander had 12 points, all in the second half.
All threes.
Jaden played pretty good. And, he's a player that people don't know about. But so it was obviously on a big stage. It was on ESPNU. So a lot of players, were geared up for this. I know Vegas Elite wanted to play really well. There are players that told me they were looking forward to it as well said. And then, obviously, the game some of it was built around Bryce James, who's LeBron James' second son, and the younger brother, Bronny. And obviously, the night before, Chelsea saw him play. And he really didn't do much, just out there running up and down. He's not really physically ready to, get in the key or make a play. But then at the end, Chelsea, don't you tell everybody what happened at the end of the game. Everybody's kind of seen it. And it's like, how did this happen? But it's just kind of like, wow, this really happened. So,
yeah. So, like I said, Bryce was just kind of out there, making the teams even a little bit. I will say he's playing up. And he just kind of looks out of place to me. Like I couldn't really get a good feel of like what he does because he just kind of looked a little overwhelmed. Like you said, not physically strong enough to do a lot of things. So I don't really have a great scout on what I feel like he can be as a player. But I will say that he's younger. So, obviously he's going to have a chance and he's going to grow up and he's going to get bigger. And, we'll probably be able to give a better evaluation of him then. But at this time, he's out there. They're kind of using him as a spot up. Kind of shooter, playing a lot in the corners in the wing. I keep hearing the coach, Dante Jones actually was the coach, just yelling, shoot the ball, like be ready to shoot. Like that's what they obviously have him on the floor for. So, the game's happening. Strive for Greatness ends up being down 2. It was a really back and forth game. They were playing, I think Showtime lead or something. Yeah, they got some players on that team. Yeah, they got some players on that team for sure. So back and forth game, I felt like Showtime, was pretty much in control most of the game and probably should have won. But their lead guard, number 5, I'm not really sure his name, but he went down, kind of banged his head on the floor a little bit, left the game for a little bit. And when he returned, they're kind of playing from behind now. Now they're down 2 points. But needless to say, they get the lead back. Strive for Greatness is down 2 points. There's maybe like 6-7 seconds on the clock. One of the guards is going downhill, gets into the paint, kind of gets stripped, loses the ball, recovers the ball. Bryce James, here he is, just sitting there in the corner, ready to go. Gets the ball, catches it, hesitates a little bit, but goes into his 3. And one of the kids from Showtime Elite just totally tackles him with like 1 second remaining on the clock. He's fouled. There's 3 free throws to win the game. And, surprisingly enough, Bryce goes up there, he puts all 3 free throws in, and Strive for Greatness ends up winning by 1 point. So, that's how it happened.
Kudos to him. Ani, he hadn't shot a field goal. He hadn't shot a free throw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'd even triple threaded the ball at that point yet.
No.
Like, he hadn't even made one move to the basket. So it's like, here's these 3 free throws, and we were at the press table. We're like, oh boy. And then he just knocks them down. It was like great. Everybody's like so happy for him, just like, because he really didn't do nothing. Literally didn't really have any impact on the game prior.
Well, the games I saw, he looked like the game was just too fast and too physical for him. So I mean, I think he's more like a wing shooter. I think that's what they're like the prototype is, and trying to make him more of a scorer, like off the bounce. But yeah, like that was way too much for him. Like that whole week is just too much for him. But I'm happy he made his free throws. I mean, it shows that he knows he can make free throws at least.
Yeah, he knows he can step to the moment. It's hard to say because in the next game again, he against Vegas Elite on TV, he did hit a three-pointer at the end, and he was 1 for 5. So at least he got a little more into the flow. In the first game, he really didn't. So, moving on to the next game, we don't want to say too much about it because, like we said, Chelsea said, we'll just watch him and continue to watch him. He's going to continue to play.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the future. The second game was West Coast Elite versus Compton Magic. 217 and under teams. Ani, were you back at the house watching that one?
Yeah. That's what got to watch Code Pete and them and Drew Felder. I like Felder a lot. He was really good at UA in Atlanta. I was kind of surprised I don't know how his recruitment is still right now, but I was like no brainer high major guy. Like he's really talented, got good footwork in the post. Cole Pete was good. Again, it's like he's in that 3-4 man battle for number 1 in 2025 because his size and skill. I thought that was one of the better matchups that I just got to really just sit down and watch. West Coast Elite, the big fella that they have, I think he's about to take a visit to Wyoming. That was like some of the best basketball I saw him play, just rim running and finishing and doing that. But really, shout out to Ryan Silver, West Coast Elite, getting that game. And but no, I thought that was just a good game. Got to see Cole Pete and more like going against more length. Obviously, he's been playing up, but just in a game like that with a 7-footer and like a front court that big, and then just seeing Felder and the big fella just kind of getting after it. I thought that was kind of where I was focusing in on is just looking at that.
Yeah, no, it was a good game, a 5-point game. Jamar Howard hit 2 free throws with 4 seconds to go to ice the game, so it made it a 5-point game. And, it was an overall good, well-played game. Honestly, 65-60. Those two teams, they don't want to lose to each other. We know that.
No.
They don't want to lose to each other. So,
no.
Like you said, kudos to Ryan Silver, though, because, again, when you have a TV game, and Chelsea talked a little bit about it, and that's kind of the theme of these Las Vegas big-time games is, you have an option to add a guy to your team. Obviously, people want to see quality players on TV, but then it's kind of the mix. Do you want to throw a team together, or do you want to keep your guys and maybe those guys look well? And I think that really looked well for West Coast Elite, especially Jamar Howard. He's from the Central Coast of California. We had Paul Hernandez on the show a few episodes ago talk about him as the best player in 223 in that class. Like, that game really did well for him.
Yeah.
If more of the country knows about him now, lefty, gets downhill, super athletic, plays football. He had a really big game, 16 points, and he looked like he belonged. Like, he looked like he belonged with high majors. That was a great thing for him. And like you said, if you saw him at UAA, he's probably just one of the guys you might have noticed a little bit. But if you saw him in this game on TV, it's going to stick out. They're going to call his name a bunch. He had not only the winning free throws, but he has some good slashes, some good movement. He kind of reminded me a little bit of a former Compton Magic player, actually, Jeff Trepanier, lefty who athletic, who played at USC. Maybe not to that level, but very good. Lefty that can jump and leap and slash. So shout out to him. The man you're talking about, Ani Jacob McFarland from Rancho Verde.
Yeah.
Jacob is taking some big time visits now. He's getting some big offers. And like a year ago, he didn't have none of that. So it's good to see him. He's been a little bit under the radar. And then Devin Curtis as well. He's been injured. and he's another big guy that Ryan Silver has on his group. So Victorious Miller, we know about, obviously.
Yeah, he was solid.
Yeah, Silk the Shocker's son, Master P's nephew. You know, he did well. 6'4", 6'5" guard. Victorious had 14 points, but he looked really well. Like you said, Cole Pete had a good game. Yeah, I really like what Cole Pete's doing. He gets fouled a lot. I mean, I could just do it real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He shot 11 free throws, and that's average. Like, he's shooting 11 to 15 a game as a 225 playing 17s. Like, guys can't stay in front of him or they can't handle him. You know, he gets downhill and he keeps getting fouled. So he had a good game, 15 points. Devin Williams had a good game, the 222 from Corona Centennial, 21 points, blocking shots, 7 rebounds, and a few block shots. I actually have his numbers on a tweet here. He had 4 blocks and 7 rebounds and 21 points. So great game there. Let's go to the next game, which was another game on ESPN, Midwest Basketball versus Strive for Greatness, the 17s. And it's kind of like we talked about. That's the game and the team we're talking about. It's like Strive for Greatness has a lot of great players around Bronny, individual talent, I should say. And Midwest Basketball, his buddy Gabe Cupps, who everybody knows for getting in a shootout with LeBron at a tournament. They were firing threes against each other. Everybody kind of knows Gabe Cupps from that around the country. But forget all that ball is life type of video. He's just a good player, and that's just a good team. Back cutting, hard cuts, back doors, extra pass, swing the ball, just basic basketball. And they jumped out all over them, and it obviously made all of them look good individually, regardless of what their individual level or ranking is. It doesn't matter. They came away with a terrific win, Ani.
Yeah, no, I really like Reece Shepherd and Gabe Cupps. The first time I got to see him was last year in Adidas, and I was like, just that team that's not a good matchup for Strive for Greatness, especially when you're just kind of putting guys together, right? Like a team that back cuts, moves, plays off the ball, makes the extra pass, and just shoots it. They just really can shoot the piss out the ball. So like I really like how Reed and Gabe were, and I just thought, like, when I saw the matchup, I'm like, that's kind of a setup game, just for Strive, because I'm like, Midwest Basketball. I mean, they almost won Adidas last year, and they were good this year. So it was like, I knew that was going to be a tough game for Strive. I was like, this is a bad matchup. Like, you would have rather seen them play like West Coast Elite or Compton Magic or something like that. Like, yeah, I thought that was kind of a setup game.
I got to go back to that previous game real quick. I'll get your guys' take on it, because obviously the Compton Magic have an opinion about it, and some of them might even be watching or listening to this. Is Chelsea, I get your take first, and Ani. West Coast Elite played a 2-3 in a high-level matchup on TV. Chelsea, is it basketball's basketball you're trying to win, or is it like, hey, showcase these guys, let's match up, let's get after it, let's see what they look like individually. But hey, West Coast Elite has 2'7", 6'10", 6'11" guys at the same time. Let's go 2-3. Let's dare them to shoot. Obviously, that's what they did.
Yeah, and no, basketball is basketball. You're trying to win. This is not the NBA. Like, I'm strategically doing whatever I have to do to put my team in a position to be successful. I've noticed just watching the games, some of these kids can't shoot at all. A lot of them want to, put their head down and get into the paint. So if I have people that can rim protect and, and shot block and make it difficult on the opponent, then I see nothing wrong with it. And truly, despite the NBA, the next level, college, people are playing zone a little bit. Like, obviously they want to see you be able to guard your man, but this is not something that you wouldn't see at the next level. So I don't feel like it's not something that we can't do in high school, because you're going to see a little bit of it anywhere. And ultimately, offensively as well, you need to be able to play against the zone. You need to be able to, know what you're good at and not good at. And if this forces some of those players to look in the mirror and say, hey, I don't really shoot as well as I think I do, then, long term, it could be a blessing in disguise anyway. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have two takes on it. Like, as a casual fan, I obviously would not like to see a 2-3 zone, right? Like, I would want to see up and down, want to see a whole bunch of dunks. I want to see more open space. But the 2-3 was smart against them. I mean, especially with their size. And then I think it slowed down Compton Magic some, all right? And it kind of took away some of their guys that doing what's best. Obviously, like, if I'm just watching it, like, just normal person, no, I hate it. But, like, for me as us as basketball people, like, I love that they went 2-3. I thought that was very smart for them. I thought that slowed down the game, and I thought that played into the strengths of West Coast Elite, especially with the personnel. Like we talk about with Devin, you talk about with McFarland. Like you got some bigs down low, like that allows them to stay in the paint and protect the rim. You know, like you said, Cole Pete's a guy, like if you play him one-on-one, you know, he takes 11 free throws a game. That game, I mean, hell, he could have taken 20, 25 if you try to play him one-on-one. So that's smart. Like I'd rather have done that than, you know, let him just live in the free throw line.
Sure. And it's not like the game wasn't a good game anyway. So,
right.
Yeah, Compton Magic could have exploited, obviously, in most 2-3s, the weaknesses in the middle. You got to flash to the middle. They had a guy in the middle, but they really didn't flash him. They didn't move him as much maybe as they could have wanted to. And obviously, that's in-game adjustments, and the game was pretty close. And they got they brought in a couple backup guards, Ray King, to kind of pressure the ball more. There was no shot clock, so he got in there. Ray King from St. John Bosco and Kelsey Phipps from Bishop Montgomery, who you know, they're kind of spark plugs. They can really play D. So shout out to those two guys. They had a good moments down the stretch to force the tempo to get Compton Magic back in the game. And Eric Freeney did another good job. Ani, we talked about him before. Guy at Corona Centennial, young man who's had a great summer. And speaking of the Midwest, the second game, obviously nobody was going to try to zone Midwest basketball.
No.
They ended up with 13 3-pointers. And you mentioned Reed Shepherd. Obviously, his dad's Jeff Shepherd, like the Big Blue Nation to the 98, and he was on the 96 national title team. 2 national titles at Kentucky. Jeff Shepherd, Reed is bouncy like that. I guess at NBA Players Association camp, he struggled a little bit on it.
He
struggled a little bit. You know, maybe with just the quality of size and the player there, the talent level. But on this game, within his team framework, he did a lot better. Reed had 16 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Really all-around good game. Rayvon Griffith, who I've been able to see at the Angles camp a few times, 15 points in the first half. Gabe Cupps, the well-known player, 11 points, and Maki Johnson had 9. Speaking of strive for greatness, like you said, they had a team full of high-level players. Mackenzie Babaku had 15 points and 10 rebounds. Rob Dillingham, the talented point guard, had 11 points and 4 assists. Wesley Yates is one of those fingers, a Texas boy, Ani. He had a big first half, then ended up with 18, and then Bronny had 7 points and 7 rebounds. Bronny had a couple really nice rebounds down the stretch, couple nice plays. Again, for Bronny, I just think he, with his body and size, I would like to see him take it into the rim a little bit more, try to draw fouls.
I agree.
He loves the step to the left, shoot the jumper. And his coach even mentioned, like, Ronnie, don't fall back. You know, why are you leaning back to get up in that? So, you know, what's your take on the strive for greatness, Chelsea? Just what you saw and Bronny.
You know, Bronny just looks like a quality role player to me. You know, I don't really know like what he's going to become. You know, we know who his dad is, obviously, and he's going to have all the tools and resources and maybe even some opportunities that these other kids don't have. But, you know, I didn't see anything above and beyond from him. I didn't see, you know, one and done college type player. And I definitely don't see NBA ready right out of high school. I look at him as somebody who can play in a system and really benefit and do well, be a quality basketball player. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You see some of these, superstar, I guess, children, and, you know, the expectations just grow and get, you know, consistently higher for them. But at the same time, like, you know, he's not going to be LeBron. I'm very comfortable saying that he will never be LeBron. But that's okay, though. You know, carve your own path, try to become the best basketball player that you could possibly be. But I really just see him from my eye test as a quality mid-major, you know, fit into a role, be productive type of basketball player. Because his IQ is there, his shot looks good, you know, but I don't see anything spectacular. And the team, honestly, to me, was just kind of all over the place. A lot of individual talent. I didn't see, you know, anything great collectively. Like, wow, you know, strive for greatness is really moving the ball or doing, like, it was just kind of like they're just playing and they're getting whooped, basically, from what I can see. So I think Bronny, like I said, he'll be a good quality basketball player. I don't see anything spectacular from him, and time will tell if he can even, you know, reach the NBA and, do something special there. I definitely think he can benefit from a couple years in college and just keep developing and do the best he can. But I didn't see anything eye-opening from him or the team, truly.
Right. And it's a tricky situation with that Strive team when majority of those guys, he's got done playing Peace Jam. Doing a whole week of that, then coming in and, look, I mean, they should be motivated to play, especially on ESPN and stuff like that. But, I agree with you. It was just all over the place. Dillingham was, he was an aggressive passer, right? And he's one of the best guards in the country, arguably one of the best players in the country, but he was solid. Mookie Cook, you can see why he's labeled a potential 5-star kid. But, it just Wesley Yates. I mean, he's a kid that's had a good summer. Was a cream of the crop, top 60 kid at Pango's All-American camp. But it just Mbako had a really good Peace Jam with the scholars, but it just wasn't all together. And I think to ask those kids in such a short time frame, okay, now we're going to come in after Peace doing a whole week of this, and then we're going to play no rest and just play again. Like I said, the Midwest games, it was a settled game. I just think the whole thing wasn't built for them to succeed, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I agree with you guys on those takes. I wanted to mention the last game as well, but I agree with you guys overall on those takes. I do think it would be interesting to see Bronny in college, and I think people assume his dad is the most well-known player in the world, and he has all the resources, like Chelsea said, that nobody's recruiting him. That how can he go to a college and it be normal? But I do know that some colleges, I think Chelsea had mentioned it, and some of our inside and sources have said, some colleges would like to recruit him, and some have reached out to him, and they've reached out the other way, but they just don't know what it entails. Like, does he have to have security detail with them all the time? What does that entail if he gets recruited to your school? So, like Chelsea, I'm with what Chelsea says. If he could do 2 or 3 years of college, that would be so awesome. That would just be awesome for his development, and just awesome for him to hang around with some kids his age in a college environment. And I think same thing with Bryce. I mean, again, we don't know what type of player Bryce is going to be, but just to get maybe some normalcy with some peers. That's what I see. That's what I see, especially with Bryce. Is I'll be on this team because I can hang around my buddies, laugh, goof around, shoot around, have a good time before the game and after the game, regardless of what I do during the game. Because the rest of his life is like in a fishbowl. You know what I mean? When he's on a basketball team, he's one of the guys. So that's kind of what I see there with that. So hopefully those two do well. I'm sure they will. Let's talk about the last game, another 16U game that was very good. Just good, entertaining. Obviously, this Paul George Elite pulled away at the end from the Oakland Soldiers, 80-63. Ani, there's a lot of good prospects on both teams. Again, the team that added the ringers lost. It's kind of like, and Paul George had maybe a guy or two that wasn't on team, but for the most part, that was the unit they rolled with.
Right. No, and a lot of talent, but Paul George, they were clicking. It was probably one of the better. It was a solid basketball game, but you can tell, like you said, the team that's been meshing together, like Paul George and adding maybe they added a piece or two. Was that what it was?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they were just clicking. They were scoring. They were defending. Like the name of the game, especially. I love the concept of this whole thing. Like the games be on ESPN, but would love to have more teams that are like that. Like they just played so much better as a basketball team. You can kind of tell what the outcome was going to be early on that. So, I thought it was a solid basketball game. A lot of talent, but I thought Paul George, they just looked really good as a team, compared to Soldiers who had some talent, but just little individualistic.
Correct. And they had pretty much a whole different lineup than they used at the various stops of Nike, of the UIBL.
Right.
That wasn't their group, and they didn't qualify for Peach Jam. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ani. So they just brought in 4 or 5 guys, and it's like it did good for Mikey Lewis, the guard from Northern California who's played at Denver Prep. Mikey's also played on the 3SSB circuit. He had a good game. Malachi Palmer was their best player probably. He had 13 points, but just his style. Mercy Miller, who is Victorious' cousin, right? Mm-hmm. Mercy is Master P's son. He had a solid game. He's tough. He gets downhill. He's pretty tough. He's active. He had 8 points. Aiden Sherrill was their leading scorer, big guy, 15 points. Like you said, for Paul George, it was mostly the core. Obviously, their best player now, Jamari Phillips, the 224. He had 31 points. Jamari can miss. What can you think about Ani? He can miss 5 in a row, and that 6 shot is just going up like it was the first one. And
short-term memory.
5 in a row. Like, he'll just hit, and he demoralizes. I had a couple coaches, I can hear them on the right side. They're like, damn, dude, hit another one. Like, it just demoralizes the bench. He just keeps going at it. You know what I mean? He just has a high motor offensively. He's just no conscience. And sometimes that's what you want with the score.
Yeah, Jamari Phillips was fantastic. His scoring prowess, and he has short-term memory. And like, I like his positional size. I think he's one of the, I won't say sleeper because I know he's a high major kid in that class, but I think he's better than what people kind of give him credit to right now. Sure. I think he's really, really good. He can score, 3-level score, and I think that his ability, like, he can also defend. I think he actually brings some energy on the defensive end. Obviously, you would want more just because he brings so much offensively. But the team is built around him being able to do that and him being comfortable to score the way he does. And yeah, I think he's been really good all spring and summer. I think he's kind of been I think people talk about him, but I don't think people talk about him enough. He was the best part of the court. By far.
And he made the difference. Their best prospect could be Carter Bryant. He's a 6'8", 224 forward. He had a really good game. He had 11 and 11, but just his impact, I think, down the line is starting to show he's really going to be good long term. He played his first 2 high school seasons at Fountain Valley in Southern California. Played for his father and does play for his father. And you can see glimpses. They weren't a great team. He showed flashes, but I think this summer, starting from Section 7, then over to what he did for Paul George has really helped his recruitment, and he's going to be a good player. And he's going to spend his junior year at Sage Hill, which is down in Orange County, because his father took that job. So, yeah, his father, Deshaun, played at Long Beach State, and his uncle is Trayvon Bryant, who played at Missouri, was a McDonald's All-American, and now works in the front office in the NBA. So he's well-versed. He's going to be good, really good later on if he's not already really good. Jaden Quaintance is another guy who had a great game, 225 forward. He had 18 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, that was like the game we were waiting for him to pop out. Like, he's always had the ability, but, boy, he's going to be really good down the line. He just turned 15. He has huge hands, huge arms, long arms. And I really don't usually like to say that about anything. I don't care if he has long arms or not, but, like, notice that dude. It's like, geez, this guy's really long. He's kind of like, when you look at him, you think Jaren Jackson. Now, obviously, he's not to level of Jaren Jackson yet. He's basically a 15-year-old kid, but that's what he looks like. That's what he moves like that, or that's what you hope he can develop into. The Lalamere Jaren Jackson, the one who's inside, not the Memphis Jaren Jackson who just loved the three. The Lalamere Jaren Jackson.
And Jaden was really good at Pangos. I got to see him, and I think he was at Dream City this past season on that second group. Kid from Ohio. Yeah, that stupid upside.
Yeah, his dad played at Penn State. So Speaking of a player who plays for his father, our guest does play for his father. Our guest Travis Perry, hopefully he'll join us here in a few minutes. Lyon County High School in Eddyville, Kentucky. I think it's small town ball. Ani and Chelsea, Indiana Elite 16U. That's the team. Honestly, if we were going to talk about any of these teams, like you said, I would love to see Midwest basketball versus Indiana Elite 16. Obviously, they're on the 3SSB circuit. They won that championship in the first period in the finale, Adidas finale, and they won the open title in LA. I mean, their team is just really well schooled. Yeah. And the difference, I think, between them and Midwest basketball is Midwest basketball, as a 17 group, has 6'5", 6'7", 6'8" down low. Indiana Elite has 6'8", 6'10", 6'11", but they move the ball, cut, played that way. You mentioned him on the last part, episode 136, Flory Badunga. Ani from Kokomo High School in Indiana. I mean, he really might be the best 224 in the country. I mean, we love our guy Ian. We love a couple of these other guys. Like, he might be the best prospect. We'll see what Travis has to say about that. Cooper Koch going to Iowa. Raleigh Burris, knockdown stretch 4. He's very good as well. Aaron Fine, a good guard. They're just a good team. I know you weren't there in Leone, but I know you'd seen them and they're some of their players before.
Yeah, no, Flores. I have him third in those 24 class. Actually, yeah, I have him third. I have Nazir, Trey Johnson, which could be a bias thing because he's a Texas kid. Then I got Flores, and I got Ian. Trey, no, you haven't watched Trey Johnson yet. Yeah, boy.
Okay, I'm gonna start now that you mentioned it.
Boy. Like, you watch Dennis Evans, you didn't go watch Trey Johnson.
Okay, will do.
But Flores fantastic, just his rim protecting, his mobility with his size. I think there's real upside offensively as a low post and a face-up guy. Flores really, really good. I got to see him in Orlando. I was like, who the hell is this kid? He's really, really good. Travis Perry, who we're going to have on the show, really good. I know Kentucky offered. I think Stanford just offered as well. Kind of just blowing up right now. He's always been sound, just a really sound guard that can score. I love how he can kind of run your team, but also play on and off it and be really effective. And then Cooper Koch, just a 6'8", but he's like a small forward. He's skilled, has high feel. I think he can just kind of do a mixture of everything on the court. Just from what I saw, I mean, I really like Cooper. You say he's going to Iowa? He committed to Iowa early, or?
Yeah, Cooper Koch is going to Iowa. Yeah, moves
okay.
well.
Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah, a really good player. So that Indiana Elite team, I mean, and traditionally, they've always been really good. I think this 16U group has been the best Indiana Elite I've seen in the past, couple years that I really got to just go to Adidas and watch. Just they got a mixture of the shooting, the guard play, and then just the front court play has been fantastic. And then it's good when you have a 5-star big man, protecting the rim and just able to just clean up on some stuff while your guards can be aggressive out in the perimeter, and letting the opposing guards get in the paint and get blocked.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're Travis is looking to join us right now. He's trying to get his video feed good, but if anything, we'll just have him. We'll listen to his audio, but he'll jump on right now. But yeah, 3SSB was good. There's a lot of good prospects in the 17 divisions. I could go over some of the names. Obviously, there was a bunch of good players in that division, and obviously, I thought the Indiana Elite 16s would have done well in that, and the 17s, Dream Vision did good. Ani, why don't you talk a little bit about what you saw with the Indiana Elite defeating Utah Prospect 16, and then in 17, Mass Rivals defeating Dream Vision. New World won the Adidas, I think, younger division. Mocan won in Peach Jam. Team Takeover won the 16s. Night Riders the 15s, and then Team Thrill won the UAA finals in 17 and 16 and made the 15. Just what's your high level take about just those championships and those shoe circuit teams winning?
Yeah, it's mighty fun. Like when New World won, New World actually came to Dallas in May and was getting smacked. They were getting smacked out here. I don't know if it's a Dallas thing. You come out to Dallas, I can't tell you what's going to happen. But for them to kind of get back going and winning, that was really good. Just them peaking at the right time. I thought that was very interesting and really good. And it was a triple overtime game. The win that was crazy. Indiana Elite being dominant. That's 16U. Going 8-0. I knew they were a good team. I didn't think they were that good, right? But again, peaking at the right time and going 8-0. That was really good. Mocan, just steady, Layden Blocker. John Bowl, who's a 2024 playing up, I thought he was really solid. Omaha, who just plays with the endless motor. Mocan, I mean, what is that? 3 championships in 6 years? I mean, that's crazy. But it helps when you got Sunrise and Link Your Prep right there.
Perry
right. And Coach Perry's doing a hell of a job. He did a hell of a job coaching this year. I'm not going to info right now, but we'll see him in the college level this fall. So really good seeing him, how he just kind of did his send off right. But no, I just thought it was really interesting. Mo Cambage just steady. Did I have him going to win Peace Jam? I didn't. I thought maybe they'll make Elite Eight or Final Four, but they're just steady. They're just a really steady group. And New World, they peaked at the right time. I saw them in Dallas and they got their head beat in. And I was just like, oh man, this team's horrible, But they did good. And the Indiana Elite, just dominant performance. But even Houston Defenders, like we talk about them, they won. Their first time they won in UAA in Atlanta. They won the summer championships. That was big. Aaron Harrison, they were a team a couple years ago. People were wondering why they still have a deal. So that was really good. And then Team Thrill winning this last one out in Chicago. I mean, they lost to Houston Defenders in the last championship round. So for them just to come in and, with Derek Queen, and they got a kid, Eli Rice, and they got a couple other dudes that, they have a really good team and a talented group. So for them to respond back, go to Chicago and win, wasn't surprising, but it was really good. You sometimes you see with stuff like that, they'd be like, man, screw it, man. We're going to Chicago last live period. We're going to have fun. We're not even going to worry about it. But they came to win. So, I did like that.
Yeah, that was great. So it looks like we have Travis going to join us in the paint now. Travis is back home finally after a long July. Travis, how you doing? Can you see us? This is Ronnie Flores within the paint with my co-hosts Chelsea and Ani.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got y'all. Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate
Hi, Travis.
We're good, Travis.
Thank you for jumping on. Travis, I got to ask you just right off the top. Are your parents – did your parents go out to Southern California?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we had our whole crew out there. My parents went out there, and I've got 3 siblings, so we all made the trip out there. We actually made a road trip of it. We drove out there all the way from down here in Western Kentucky, so it was a long drive. It took a couple of days, so we drove out there and flew back. So we made a good trip of it.
Wow, awesome! That sounds good. Obviously I talked to you for a minute, but I didn't know anything about that. Did you guys stop at the Grand Canyon? Obviously, almost all the water's gone, man. At Lake Mead, did you guys see any water? Was there any water for you guys anywhere?
Yeah, yes, sir. We stopped. We stopped in Utah at Zion National Park, and then stopped at the Grand Canyon, and then Dam. So yeah, we hit a lot of the big hot spots on the way down there. So yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully you guys weren't water deprived like everybody else is out here. But just tell us, our viewers, how satisfying and gratifying it is to accomplish what you guys did with your travel team. Like, regardless of what happens next year on the 17U, you guys accomplished what you did, and you're always going to have that in your back pocket and in your memory bank. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an awesome season for sure. We started off, we knew we were going to have a good team. We had a lot of good pieces. We didn't have all the practices that everybody has. We kind of just gelled from the beginning. We had one practice right before the first live period weekend. We had a practice down there, put in about 5 to 6 plays, 2 out of bounds plays, and just kind of ran with it. We had a great season, had a lot of unselfish guys, and that's what it took for us. We all played the game the right way, got everybody involved, and just had fun. So it was awesome. Regardless of what happens next year, like you said, we'll always have. I mean, this was a great year for us. Probably one of the best years any elites had. So it was definitely a great year.
Sure.
Nice. Well, Travis, I have to ask you, like, just, you talk about just the lack of preparation that you really guys had, just, because you didn't have a lot of practices and stuff like that. But yet you guys gelled and came together, and, the chemistry obviously looked exceptional. So I just have to ask, like, when's the last time you lost a travel ball game?
Yeah, we actually, believe it or not, we actually took 2 losses this season. We lost once on the 3 stripes and once in the Bill Hensley Running Slam. 3 stripes we lost in the first live event. We had a kid go for 45 against us, so it was kind of just like a perfect storm. We didn't really have our best game, and they went crazy. And then we lost another game. It was like our 7th or 8th game in 2 days, so we were a little bit exhausted then. But that was kind of early in the season. Those losses both came early. We didn't lose all July, so we kind of picked it up the stretch and just kept winning from there. So yeah, losing wasn't really an option for us down the stretch.
Nice. Okay. Well, I really like how you guys came together. What would you pinpoint If you had to pick a couple things or maybe one thing that just made this team so special, was it the limited time with each other, the chemistry we were able to develop? Like, what would you say made this group so special and kind of what led to the success?
Yeah, the main thing for me was just the unselfishness we had. Obviously a ton of great players. We have Cooper Koch, who's a great player, Flory Badunga, Raleigh Burgess, Josiah is our other point guard, who's really good. We had really 8 really good players, and we weren't selfish at all. We played together. We had fun. We liked being around each other, and that's what it came down to. We moved the ball well, and I feel like when you're unselfish like that and don't care who scores all the points, who's getting all the glory, you're just worried about winning. That's when great things happen, and that's what we did. We didn't care if somebody got 30 and you didn't score at all. You're still happy at the end of the day that we're winning, and that's what it came down to for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Travis, who this season has been great for y'all? Like, whose recruitment really boosted from you guys' success? Just y'all play a lot of really good team basketball. Whose recruitment really raised, from y'all successes this spring and summer?
I would say the biggest stock riser for our team was probably Raleigh Burgess. He kind of blew up being out there. Even playing with Flory, a 5-star big man, you could think that maybe he might get a little bit in the shadow, but that wasn't it at all. He showed his ability to stretch the floor, to knock down open threes, and he honestly got better every game of the year, and coaches love to see that. And he picked up a lot of offers during the summer, got a lot of great opportunities for him to play college basketball, and I think he was the biggest stock riser for us for sure.
All right. And let's talk about your recruitment. You got a Kentucky offer, Stanford offered. You got a lot of schools probably hitting you. Just talk about that a little bit and talk about, what's the timetable for visits? What's the timetable for when you want to condense your list and make a decision?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's obviously been a lot of great opportunities for me. I've been blessed to play in a lot of games, a lot of showcases where there's been coaches to just kind of be able to display my abilities, and I'm very thankful for all the options that I've gotten over the course of that. I really don't really have my visits lined up for fall and stuff this year. I'll probably get on those soon. We're kind of seeing where we want to go to. We're trying to see everywhere we can, really, because for me, it's going to be about relationships where I have the best feel with the coaches and the staff and stuff like that. So I like to get on campus, get face-to-face with the guys, and just see how they run things. So I don't really have many visits planned right now, but I will definitely plan some in the future. And the timetable for me will just be whenever I feel like it's right. I'm not going to rush it, not going to delay it too long. I think I'll know when it's the right time and the right fit, and that's when the decision will come.
Makes sense. Travis, does that mean you want to really have your parents take you on a couple more road trips? Like, you want to get out of the house and hit the road again?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit, bit, yes, sir.
What part of the country haven't you seen? Have you seen most of the country, or you been just to the Midwest and West out now?
Yeah, I've been playing, travel basketball since basically I could walk, so I've seen a lot of it.
Sure.
Pretty much just been the Midwest. That was our first time out west, really.
Okay.
So still got a lot to explore, but yeah, I'd say I've seen a lot for a kid my age, for sure.
For sure, that's pretty awesome. So I'm sure you'll be, taking some trips and deciding when that comes, and it'll be a great time for you. Let's switch gears and talk about your high school season. You guys in the Sweet 16 quarters. Obviously, Kentucky high school ball is huge. You guys are the only one-class system still around of all the 50 states. Obviously, that's a heartbreaking 2-point loss in the quarters. How did that motivate you for the travel ball season and for next year? Obviously, you don't want to relive that forever, but it's got to motivate you in some way.
Yes, sir. Yeah, for sure. It definitely motivated me for the travel ball season. Just kind of that feeling when you lose, and nobody wants to feel that, especially that close of a heartbreaking loss. It's kind of one of those things like you don't want to have it happen again. And going into those big games in the AAU ball, I'm thinking you don't want to look back on it and see something you could have did differently. So
sure.
See, it kind of just motivated me. I always feel like I play hard. Just play a little bit harder. Make sure you're playing harder than the other team, giving it your all, so that if the game's over and you lose, you got beat by a team that played better that day and not by somebody that played harder or something like that. But for high school season this year, it definitely has motivated us a ton. A lot of people would think that coming from a school of 200 people in your high school first time he made the Sweet 16 in 71 years. That getting there and winning a game would be enough. But I mean, it really wasn't. We looked at it after that game, and we're all devastated. We know we could have went a lot farther, could have won the whole thing. So, it's a lot of motivation this year. Our core group of guys have really got together. We've worked hard this summer. We're having open gyms starting now. We've been having it. We had a good summer playing in June in the live periods and stuff. So I think we'll be ready, and it's definitely just motivation every day that you don't want it to happen again. Don't want to get all the way up there, lose by 2 points again. So there's the little things will make a difference for us.
Got you. And for being, you guys have 200 students. Have all you guys played together like junior high ball and down the line, like your high school team, or have you guys come from different schools and different regions in the area?
It's pretty much been like that. So we've got a core group of guys that there's 2 more kids that are rising juniors with me that played. Me and Jack Reddick and Brady Shoulders have played together since first grade. We started playing. Wow. Played all over the country together in AAU and everything. We just last year actually it was the first year we didn't play AAU together. So that connection definitely helps us. Everybody can kind of tell when we're out there on the court that we know what each other's thinking and what's going to happen. So yeah, that connection has definitely been around for a while, and it makes you play a little bit harder when you're playing with those guys. They've got your back, you got their back, and that if you lose, and you're losing with those guys, so you got to play harder to try and win with them for sure.
Definitely.
Nice. Well, Travis, speaking of connection, you talked about that. I'm curious, what is it like playing for your father, Ryan? I mean, I'm a coach's kid myself. I didn't actually play for my dad, but my dad was a high school basketball coach here in Las Vegas forever. So just kind of grew up in the gym, kind of following in his footsteps and seeing him do his thing. So just curious what it's like for you. Is it a big deal, kind of to the people in your small town, or on the other hand, is it more refreshing for you to kind of hear a different voice when you're out there on the travel ball circuit?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's been a great experience for me. I mean, some people say they don't enjoy it, but it's been great for me. He's coached me since first grade. Like I said, when we started travel ball, he's been my coach through it all. So it's kind of one of those things where you know that you're going out there and playing for your dad. If you're not doing the right thing, he's gonna let you know about it. But at this point in the game, I feel like he kind of knows, and I know that I should be doing the right thing, what to do. And it's kind of, he doesn't have to yell at me. He just kind of gives me the look now, and I know it's time to go. And it's also refreshing because, playing for your dad, you don't want to be out there lollygagging around or goofing off and losing the game for him. It's kind of a pride thing. You want to win the games and make him look good because he's did so much for me and for my friends and teammates over the years. So it's kind of one of those things. You got to make him look good, play your hardest every game, and give him some of the glory, because without him, definitely wouldn't be where I am today. But, yeah, our small town has kind of embraced us for sure. I started playing high school in 7th grade. I actually played 1 year for Coach Jeff Embry before my dad took over as the head coach. So a lot of people would be kind of bitter with a 7th grader coming in and playing, but they've embraced us. Took in my dad being the head coach, and we've had a lot of success. But, yeah, definitely Coach Mark is kind of the first coach I played for on the circuit. Not that wasn't my dad, and it's been probably the best decision I've made in basketball going to play for him. He's got so many great connections, and just the way he runs things is just next level. So great for our system. As you can see, we won a lot of games, got put in a lot of great situations. So, yeah, I'm definitely thankful for having my dad as a coach for as long as I did, and for having Coach Mark as my coach now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so just curious too, do you and your other Indiana Elite teammates, you guys ever talk about playing college ball together, aspirations of suiting up at the same school? Do you guys ever have those talks, or is it just like, hey, we're just balling, having fun, and, trying to win and stay in the moment?
Yeah, we bring it up every now and then. We'll kind of joke about it. Cooper will give us some texts, me and Raleigh, looking for playing with y'all or whatever like that. But yeah, we all know that all of us are going to make the decision that's best for us, whether that be going to the same college and getting to play together, or whether it be going different places. All of us will still be just as happy. But yeah, we joke about it every now and then. I joke about it with my high school teammates. My high school teammates I've been playing with forever, so I think we've got a couple of Division I guys. So yeah, we joke about it, but we're going to be happy with the decisions each other makes at the end of the day.
Great.
Yeah. So Travis, talk about playing with Flory. Like, did you know he was this good?
I really didn't, honestly. So the first time I saw him, I showed up in Indianapolis. We have right before the first live weekend in Indianapolis, which just happened to be in Indianapolis, we had a practice in Indianapolis that weekend, and we always start off with these little drills that we do to get loose and stuff, just going baseline shooting layups. And so we'd all drove in from far away or whatever. I drove 4 hours that morning, and I'm like shooting layups real stiff and stuff. And Flory goes up there and like puts his elbow on the rim on his first layup, and I was just kind of looking around, like looking at my dad, like asking if he saw that. And then he goes out. Then we start doing plays, and I'm tossing it up to him, and he's just going up, putting his head in the rim, and dunking it. And that's kind of when I realized, like, yeah, he's special. And just over the course of the season, he was really raw at the beginning of the season, but his basketball knowledge grew tremendously throughout the season. He learned all of our plays, knew where to be. I feel like a lot of our guys, myself, Josiah, Raleigh, Cooper, all of us kind of helped him with that. And I didn't realize he was going to be as good as he is, but he's insane. He's definitely a blessing to be able to play with him. He can make anybody look good for sure.
No, absolutely. He's man, like I saw him in Orlando. That's my first time seeing him, and I was like, whoa, like this kid can really, really, really play. So no doubt. Just talk about like in July, you got Cooper, you got Flory. You talk about Riley somehow he really blew up this spring and summer. Was there anybody else that really stepped up in July that kind of allowed y'all to propel and win Adidas?
Yes, sir. I feel like Josiah Dunham stepped up really big. And one of my friends from Kentucky, he's from kind of eastern-ish Kentucky from where I'm at. He had played with us on the AAU circuit. Kind of during COVID, we made a team of just kids from Kentucky and played with 5 guys every weekend. Wow. And he joined our team for July for our 3-stripe team, Indiana Elite. And he played good. He was kind of a football player mainly, but he stepped up big time. He came in, kind of brought a needed level of toughness to our team. That football player tough, that they talk about. He definitely has that dog mentality that nobody's going to walk all over him. And I feel like he stepped up big for us down the stretch. He was making plays, getting to the basket, getting steals when we needed them, charges, rebounds, just doing all the stuff that nobody really wants to do. He did that, and that was a huge difference maker, I think, for us in the close games in July.
Awesome. Well, Travis, we appreciate you taking out the time. We want to make sure to thank you. This is a terrific story. We're going to be following next year. Obviously, hope you guys do well in the Sweet 16. And obviously, we'll see you on the 17 and under circuit. But also, make sure you tell your parents that you want to take all your allotted visits. Yeah, because I know you want to. You're going to do that. Even if you know where you're going, just say, I'm not ready yet. Let's go somewhere else and let's visit it.
Get wined and dine, everything.
Yeah, that should be cool.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me on. Thank you a ton.
Yes,
thank
good
you,
luck,
Travis.
Travis.
Take care. Good luck, Paul, and we'll see you next year. Take care.
Sir.
Bye. Chelsea, now he just has a great story. Small town, in Kentucky, and he plays for his dad. You hear about that a lot, especially in the Midwest, and it's like, this is like a true story, like of a kid just playing good, and all of a sudden he plays on this good travel team, and they just add this like phenom player. You start thinking like, wow, and then like just they win and they don't lose, so it helped them all. Seems like it really helped them all. I think he's right on. Like he's probably a good evaluator too because he knows the game so well. Like Raleigh Burgess really is good. Yeah. Like that guy, I checked in various profiles, like the consensus profile. Like nobody has him ranked. Like I just think he's going to be ranked at before sooner than later, basically.
Right.
Yeah, Travis, wow. I was very impressed with him. He just seems like a great kid. Just so much love that he shows to his teammates. Like, with all the individual success that he's having, just, being able to recognize his teammates. And that's probably, why they did so well. He talked about chemistry and just, rooting for each other. And you could really see that with them. So, I wish that kid the best of luck. I'm sure he's going to be a big time player. We talked about the schools that he had. So, he's on his way to doing something special.
Yeah, definitely. We could talk a lot about that team. Other than they're the best 16 team and under team I've seen in a while. I don't know, Ani, when's the last time you could recall 16 team being very good? And then now transition is to our last topic, which is some of the standouts, but also you mentioned the Knight Riders winning 15s. It's like they have one of the best players in the country in the Blazers and Caden. So it's like when you say you're a great 16 and under team, or especially on the 15 and under, that doesn't always mean what it's cracked up to be, depending on who's on that team. You know what I mean? Like, this is a true team, and obviously they have a pretty good 17 and under team. So it's not like those guys need to move up or oh, hey, we got to move you up, Travis, to 17 because to fill a hole. Like, they really are a good team together.
Right. Now, 16U team, man, like, I felt like Drive Nation had a really good 16s. They didn't make it too far, but I didn't see one as good of a team. Usually you see like the 14s and the 15s are really good, a drop off in the 16s some, and then the 17s is kind of like when everybody comes back going. This team was like, I mean, they were really good. They would beat a lot of 17U teams, you know, and a lot of high-level 17U teams. So a team just this good at the 16U is always like 16U is always that time where people like to break off and want to, you know, because they've been playing probably when they were younger, play 15U, didn't like 15s, and then 16s were going to kind of separate some. So just team like them that good it's been a minute. I don't know if I ever have, but because I always see 16U teams, like you see really good 16U teams, but they're not as dominant. Like I feel like they were pretty damn dominant.
Yeah, they were pretty dominant. It's been a while since I've seen a 16 team like that. I can't recall one either. I think Mallow Trimble played for the Under Armour. The kid who went to Maryland, Ani. Did he play for Team Mallow? No, he played for the DC Assault team that got renamed. Obviously, it's a DC Assault team.
Was you talking about Thrill?
No, it was not real. When Curtis Malone got into his, they renamed DC Assault. But anyway, there was a 16-team their 16U team that went to Fab 48 was really good. That's the last one I can think of. It was obviously DC Assault, but that wasn't the name of the team after for a while there. They were terrific, but this team is about as good as together. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year. And then for Trash, the thing that stood out to me what he said, which I kind of read it, but it didn't really dawn on me, was that they hadn't been to the Sweet 16 in 71 years. That must be a tiny school.
Like 200 kids.
Yeah. And I bet you like 50 of them are good ball players. You just check, you know what I mean? Their JVs are probably really good, because the kids been playing and all know each other for so long, you know. So that's just a great story. And I did have him on my underclass All-American team. Obviously, I had Flory too. It'll be interesting to see where all those guys end up in college. I don't know. Obviously, he's a great student, so he's got to consider Stanford, I would assume. Most people look at Stanford. And then, obviously Kentucky, what are you going to do when Big Blue Nation comes calling? That's a great story. So let me go over the switching gears. Let me go over some of the other guys I thought I saw at 3SSB that were good, or this Las Vegas big time. I'll start with the big time real quick. Team Hardaway won this 17 and under. Speaking of the Boozers, their teammate Malik Abduhali, 6'7", 224. He played really terrific down the stretch in the championship game against Lake Show from California. His versatility on defense. He's a terrific shot blocker. He's a downhill scorer. Scoring is not really his forte right now, but again, he plays with the Boozers on his high school team. It doesn't have to be, but he's a terrific defender. I thought he did really well. Earlier in the week, I saw Shea Brogan. I think we've talked about him before. He's now going to go to Mater Dei in Southern California. His dad is Tommy Lewis, who was a great high school player. Speaking of Lake Show, who lost in the championship game at the big time, Jalen Brown, who's Jamari Phillips' teammate at Modesto Christian. He did show quality lead guard skills. He's very explosive around the basket. And he showed he could really run a team, even though he's not going to be, his stats are not going to be overwhelming as a senior. He may average 10 points and 5-4 assists just because they have great other players. But he showed he can be a D1 talent. We talked a little bit about Carter Bryant. He did really good. One kid I wanted to mention is from the big time is Newell. And let me get to his Asa Newell. Have you seen him? He plays for 224. Ani, have you seen him? He's going to go to Montverde now.
That's the kid that was at that USA.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was homeschooled. He was homeschooled. Yeah, I know.
Is that what he did? Was he homeschooled and he didn't play for the team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good. Yeah, he got a chance. He got a real chance.
Yeah, he's very good. He played in a couple of games. He plays on the 16 and under team for at Las Vegas big time, and it was kind of like everybody's like, well, who's that guy in the gym? And he's a lefty, kind of reminds me a little bit of Brandon Wright, who played at UNC and for the Warriors, but he shoots it way better. So maybe that's not a great comparison.
I can see it just like body and just kind of
the body, left hand,
how they move, lefty. Yeah, there's some Brandon Wright in them.
Yeah, EJ Montgomery maybe a little bit. Obviously, he maybe projects better than EJ Montgomery. So he did really well. He was kind of one of the guys I saw a little bit in the 16 under division here at the big time. I was like really impressed with him. Styles Phipps did good for Belmont Shore. They won the Pangos Terrific 24 during the live period. I got to sneak over there when I left Adidas a bit. I thought Tylen Riley from Durango did well for the Las Vegas Knicks. He still needs to be consistent with his jumper and his playmaking, but like nobody can stay in front of him. He was getting by a lot of really good guards. And another Vegas kid who I'll close out with, D-Don Thomas from Liberty. At this point now, Ani, he's probably like one of the best guards in the country, like in that 224 class. I mean, he's kind of separated himself. Every stop he goes to, he's doing really well. I think he was Dream Vision's best player and did really well. Obviously, he was a guest on our show when he was at the Pangos camp, but like even with his travel team, he might even be just as good or better.
Yeah. No. D-Don, he was really good at Pangos. And then I actually thought he was like a no-brainer top 40 kid in the country. And before that, I guess they didn't really rank him very high. So, I really liked him. I was like, man, this is one of the best players. He was one of the best players at the camp. And then when I looked him up, I saw that I thought he had some high majors kind of going on him, but he was ranked very.
Excuse me.
Bless you. And but like his craftiness with his handles, his scoring, everything. I mean, he's legit. So it's good that he's still like keeping that like level of play. You know, he did throughout the whole summer.
I think if he continues this and has a good junior year and next year, he's going to have to be he's like a McDonald's All-American running type player. Obviously, his dad, D-Don, got recruited by Jerry Tarkanian, played at UNLV, California, and obviously his son grew up here in Las Vegas. So switching gears as we close out, just anything else, Ani, in terms of Peach Jam? Let's go over some of the names. We talked about who won it. Let's talk about some of the guys who stood out, maybe some guys that we haven't talked about before. Obviously, some of them we've talked about in the last few pods. Obviously, there's a lot of great players. So go ahead and run us down with Peach Jam.
Yeah, Cameron Boozer, we talked about before. Night Riders, they dominated and won the 50U. I mean, they were beating teams like 40 and 30 points. I mean, no, it was literally not even close. Like they were just beating the hell out of everybody. But Cameron, I think he finished out the last game, had 22 and 15. Jalen Lowe for Houston Hoops. They made a Final Four run. He's on a visit right now, the SMU official visit. He's blown up. Like he was a kid that been playing well the whole season for it's not Elkins, Fort Bend. I forgot. Mine went blank, but been playing really well. I think he had like one time I talked to him, it was like Texas State and like it was another mid-major school. Like at one point in time, I think Texas Tech was flirting with him. Sure. And now, you got Memphis, I think Wichita State, SMU, they're making a priority, Oklahoma State. Like his recruitment really blew up, and he averaged almost 20 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds this weekend. He really, really showed his ability to just score, facilitate, really smooth off ball screens as a facilitator and scorer. He was really good. Mbako for New Jersey Scholars, he was good. He was obviously was strive for greatness, but he was really good. He was like 18 points, I think almost 10 rebounds. Just his versatility with his size, his build, and scoring. He had a really good Peach Jam week. 15U, look at Drive Nation. 15s with Jaden Toombs, 6'10". He's going to go dynamic prep. Jermaine O'Neal is building a school. 6'10". He actually lives with Jermaine O'Neal. Skilled, still has a lot of baby fat on him. I just turned 15 probably a couple months ago. I think 2 months ago. Soft hands, good touch, can shoot the 3. Cameron Boozer was a little too much for him right now. He ain't ready for that.
I mean, imagine you're a big and you're a pretty good player, and you're like 15. You're getting better, and like, you got to go against Cameron Boozer, who's like a top 5 player in the country.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. It's just gonna be a lot. And I remember we used to joke like during the season. I was like, Jaden, you can't mess with Cameron. He'd be like, oh man, I give him 30. Like, Jaden's a charismatic kid. But those were just kind of my Layden blocker, obviously, for Mocan was good. He was steady. He just like how he was at Sunrise, he just does a little bit of everything, gets a lot done on the offense, defensive end. So those were just kind of my standouts for Peach. I stayed in Dallas for the weekend and got to see Buff's event, the stage, and I got to see Chelsea's player Dennis Evans. And
how'd he do? How'd my boy do?
Okay, so I'll be real. So the first game, he probably had like 12 blocks. I mean, he was just blocking everything.
Okay, see,
he's a big time shot blocker, and I think big time is probably that's not even really telling you how good of a shot blocker he is. Sure. Offensively, very raw. Can shoot a little bit. Still needs to learn how to like rim run and keep the ball high and rebound out of his area and get stronger. He needs to really work on those things. Because the second game against Houston Superstars and John Uri, I was joking on the group text. It's it's the Soul Train game. You got two old school guys, going at it. And for people that are familiar with John Uri, he is a character. He's going to coach and he's going to yell at the college coaches on the sideline, and he'll run up to their side and say this kid's the best player in the country. Even if he had 10 points, he's going to tell you the best player in the country. But Dennis really struggled that game, just the speed, the physicality. They were really hitting him. You got to see why he probably only played about 4 or 5 minutes a game at USA. But there's a lot of upside there. I think if you really – everyone talks about the potential of the shooting with him, and I think if we just focus on him being a big man, and letting him roll into the basket and finishing and doing those things, then I think he'll really take off. But he's a kid. I don't know if he's a one and done. He just turned 17 last month. I think it was June 15th is when he turned 17. So he's very young. Mm-hmm. But 2 years in college, maybe 3. You're going to see. I think he's a first round draft pick if it just all comes together. But this year's going to be important just with development. With him. Kid Darkon King for Houston Superstars, he really blew up. Got an A&M offer, about 6'7", really skilled, big body, handles, passes it, shoots it, great footwork inside. Uri has another kid, Jared Harris, who's to me a top 50 national talent in 2024. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Bradley Beal, a little bit just with his body and his game and his scoring, just wide shoulders and everything at 6'5". Was really, really good. Matt Reed, who had a lot of high majors, kind of come in to see him from Basketball Means More, BMM, a 6'8" center, but can stretch out and shoot and skilled on the block. So there was a lot of good talent. I saw a kid from Oklahoma, David Howell, that I'm very interested in. 6'4", point guard, terrific passer, one of the best passers I saw at the event. And with just his size and his build, and such a great kid, and he's young. I thought Bus event had a lot of like talented players, guys that were just young for their age. Like JL3 had a kid, Jeremiah Evans, who's like 6'8", long arms, kind of a face-up guy, and he's 15, and he's he just turned 15. He's going to be a 2024 kid. David Punch, another kid for ASAC, 6'8", big hands and long arms, and skilled, and his athleticism is getting better. Just turned 15. You got some guys that you're just like, whoa, like they have a chance of being good down the road if they just continue to develop the right way.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we can keep rattling on names, and shout out to our guy Kool-Aid going out there to Dallas. Kool-Aid's been around. Obviously, Dennis is his latest player. He's been in Southern California for a long time. His Chelsea's buddy Rich Roby played for him. The trainer Clint Parks played for him. Yeah. Salt Lake Rebels coach Everett Gray played for him. Everett Gray is like, he went to college when Tark was being recruited by Tark and John Thompson. That's a long time ago. Ed Gray, who played for the Atlanta Hawks and at Cal, played from Edric Bohannon, who played in the NBA, played for Kool-Aid. So Kool-Aid's kind of like never took in a deal. He's always just done what he does in San Bernardino, finding kids that are like, grew up from tough environments, and he gets them to play. He's GS.
Yeah, he does.
Go on and on. Michael Snare, who played at Florida State. I mean, Kool-Aid's had some real boys. So shout out to him, and hopefully, like you said, Dennis just keeps developing. But yeah, you want to go to ballslife.com. I'm going to have a little bit more of the names that I saw at 3SSB and at Las Vegas Big Time. I'll put it up here in the next day or so. Obviously, we're shooting this on a Wednesday afternoon because we wanted to include like the coverage from Tuesday's game. But yeah, we could keep going on and on about the players. So yeah, thank you, Chelsea, for getting over there and scouting it out, and Ani, what you do as well. I don't know if you guys have any closing thoughts about what you saw this summer, or just the kids, or just the grassroots scene impossible. But I will definitely get out something on the .com. Obviously, we appreciate you guys listening to the pod as well. Do you guys have any closing thoughts on just July or the players you saw?
Man, it's just I'm kind of glad it's over, but it's not for me. Like, like I gotta go to Vegas, I gotta go to Chicago. So for me, it's like, I'm glad the live period's over, but I gotta finish through the beginning of August. So I'm just glad that the kids had an April period to play in front of coaches.
Right.
We ain't had that in 2 years, and just glad the summer, it helped a lot of kids out with the scholastic live period. So I'm just glad the kids had more opportunities this spring and summer to play in front of coaches than they had since COVID.
Yeah, they had the 2 weeks. They had the 2 weeks in scholastic and the 2 weeks in July. So like I said, a lot of lives changed. A lot of the kids we mentioned on today's pod, their lives have changed in the last few months. I'm sure Travis is probably like, wow, I have all these options now. Our guest this week, he's going to take his time. He obviously has 2 more years of high school. Then we got the Ballislife Junior All-American Camp. I'll probably stop by it, and I'll have a little bit of a report. It'll be finishing on July 31st this upcoming weekend. I'll probably most likely go down for like the top game. Obviously there's second, third, and fourth graders. It's a great camp put on by Open Gym Premier. They use Ballislife as a title sponsor, the name sponsor of the Ballislife Junior All-American Camp. So I want to see the 7th and 8th graders basically. I really don't want to see the 2nd and 3rd graders running around, 2nd and 3rd graders running around so much. But I'll get over there for the All-Star games to watch the top 8th graders, and I'll be mentioning. Like you said, it never really stops. So we appreciate people logging on. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube page, Ballislife Podcast Network. Shout out to the other Ballislife podcasts on that network, Noble and Rouge, Unapologetic, Kicks of Your Life. Starting on July 21st, a few days ago, we had the back to school sale starting on shop.ballslife.com. You can still use that 20% off first purchase code, INTHEPAINT. It's just in the paint. So like I said, back to school sale start. Then we're going to have a player influencer merchandise drop starting on July 29th. So it might be some interesting, like some of the guys that we work with, they have their own line of clothes now. So some of their shirts, some of the stuff. So we'll see what that entails starting on July 29th, which is in a few days. So for now, I think that wraps up our episode 137. So for Chelsea and Ani and Ronnie, we're logging off.
Bye, guys.